nice ride in here. The designer's choice of wheels and suspension system is doing a good job of smoothing out the bumps in the road. But there comes a point where wheels will go no further. In rough terrain, they just get stuck. Even vehicles with tracks on them have problems. Now, when you're in country like this, there's only one way to go, and that's with a sure foot. Yeah, come on. Here.
And here's the man-made version. Experimental legged machines. The goal? To make reality out of a fantastic dream. To military men, the Star Wars vision of battlefield walkers is not so far-fetched.
Spotted Imperial walkers.
Imperial walkers on the North Ridge.
All right, coming in.
"20 years ago, an imaginative engineer, Ralph Mosher, was making good progress in a project sponsored by the U.S. Army. In this suspended test rig, he developed a control system. His hands operate the front legs, his feet the rear. Of course, legs have to balance, and in this rig, Mosher discovered he could transfer his own sense of balance directly to the machine by having it precisely mimic his body movements. He combined the two ideas in this magnificent device, a 1.5-ton hydraulically powered quadruped, controlled and balanced directly by the operator's hand and foot motions. Although there's an overhead safety tether here, the machine-operator combination could support itself, could walk, and got up to some impressive tricks. In spite of the delightful demonstrations put on by Mosher and his daughter, the gentle monster was doomed. The skill and concentration required to operate it made the system too impractical. 2 decades later, and a group at Ohio State University is trying the same thing. Their machine weighs 3 3/4 tons and has 6 hydraulically controlled legs. It's called a hexapod. Behind every move the hexapod makes is something Ralph Mosher never had: computers.
On this screen, you see a duplicate of the display that the operator has for his information inside the cab. It has 2 major sections. The most important is the center display.
Here, Dennis Pugh's control computers display the status of the machine. As he commands the front left leg up, a side panel shows the motion, but in the center, there's a crucial change. The dashed line, joining legs that are on the ground, bypasses first the suspended front left leg, then the rear left, as that's raised as well. Now the command lean forward. With just 3 legs on the ground, the computers know how to do the balancing act.
If the center of gravity of the vehicle, which is represented by the plus in the middle, stays within this flashing line, then the machine is stable in the same sense that the stool is. It won't fall over because there's a foot farther to the outside.
So without the operator having to think about it, the hexapod can be taken to the limits of its considerable range, while the computers keep a constant watch on stability. Like Ralph Mosher's machine, the experimental hexapod spends much of its time to an overhead gantry. But there's a time when the tether has to come off. After that, there are only styrofoam shoulder pads to fall back on. For Dennis Pugh, it's part of proving the value of computer control.
No one's going to believe that a thing can really walk unless we do it without our safety system. It's kind of like an acrobat getting rid of his safety net underneath. They say, well, if the guy has to have a safety net, he's not really that good.
Vince Vanau, responsible for the machine's mechanical systems, reinstalls the all-important joystick in the cab. The hexapod is completely self-contained, powered by a motorbike engine. It's an important day, one of the first high-speed runs. Outside, no tethers. Starting checklist. No less than 16 onboard computers. They're up and running. And at a full 2 miles an hour, it's off round the parking lot. It looks simple until you stop and think about it. 7 times a second, the computers completely reformulate the plan for what to do next, including staying in balance. 81 sensors measure critical items like hydraulic pressure. 70 times a second, the hydraulic systems operating each leg are adjusted. And of course, things go wrong. Coping with breakdowns is part of the routine.
Yeah, it's a dolly.
It turned out later that just one of the onboard sensors had malfunctioned. The Ever Alert computers detected the fault and automatically shut everything down. While the hexapod may be closest to a practical vehicle, Mark Raybert is pursuing a quite different approach. His machines don't walk, they hop. This was one of his first. Raybert discovered that the way to make a hopper balance is, in principle at least, pretty simple.
These machines balance the same as me balancing this broom on my finger. If I keep my finger under the body, it'll stay stationary. If I move my finger away, it'll tip towards me. And if I move my finger towards me, the broom will tip away. Okay, now I'm going to make it go away. If I want to make it fall towards me, I can put my finger away.
Again, it's a computer that does the thinking. Not on board, but hooked up through the umbilical. The computer keeps track of the hopper's speed and position and calculates the correct foot placement and angle to push off for the next hop. The operator simply specifies direction and speed. The biped hopper works the same way and can manage some special tricks.
Normal spot.
This is Raybert's latest machine on its first formal corridor outing, although it still has to be connected to the computer and compressed air power back in the lab. It's a quadruped, based on the same control system as the single-legged hopper.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think it'll go this time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Well, unfortunately, we want to see a switch, which I don't think we can get at very easily. There's a button that's supposed to make it start running, and it's not doing anything.
One faulty connection later. It looks like a perfect run, though perhaps a little too enthusiastic. It's hard, in fact, to think of the quadruped as anything but a somewhat over-friendly dog. The device which holds the legs straight and senses leg position had come adrift.
That's why it crashed when it went up on its nose before. This rotated out, the lost control.
A quick repair, then on to the next run.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3.
This time it looks more serious.
Okay, let's first of all check all the legs.
The data recorded from those false starts has to be analyzed, but it's a familiar situation.
Now, we build these machines to do experiments with, and our normal method is that we run the machine for a while and then we repair it. We probably repair these machines a dozen times a day. And if we're running a lot like we've been doing this morning, we may repair it 2 dozen times a day.
But it turns out to be simple. The earlier crash had damaged an oil seal on the machine.
When the feet touch the ground, the legs push on the ground in order to orient the body correctly, to keep its posture upright. And when there's oil on the floor, the feet slip out, just the way you do when you're on ice. And they were flying out and it was losing its balance. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Finally, a faultless run. Brabert believes that a truly practical vehicle will need to combine the speed and agility of hopping, running machines like this with the versatility of machines like the Hexapod, which is about to attempt a new challenge, crossing a 3-foot obstacle high enough to stop a tank. The operator has to place the front legs, and then the machine will do the rest. Bring up the rear legs, take care of the balance. But on this attempt, the manually chosen front leg positions required rear leg positions that the computers would not allow. Dennis Pugh tried to continue manually, but got tangled up and had to back off. Computer control really is essential for these machines.
If you're doing it just off the top of your head, it's very easy to get legs out of sequence, put them in the wrong spot, which is what I did.
Next try, this time the front leg placement is fine. The computer follows on, and the cycle is repeated. The operator positions the front legs, the machine does the rest. This was during the first few weeks of the Hexapod's obstacle crossing trials, so they were taking things slowly, more than 10 minutes to get across in this case. Eventually, that will be down to a mere 10 seconds. When the cruising speed is up to 8 miles an hour, a fast running pace, the potential of this kind of vehicle becomes apparent. It's said that 50% of the Earth's land surface is too rough for tracks or wheels. Some of that may soon be opening up at the touch of a joystick.
The relationship between the operator and the vehicle that we'd like to have with this machine is basically the same as a horse and a rider. The rider decides where to go and basically how fast, and the horse takes care of everything else.
As for me, I think I'll stick to the traditional way.